Welcome to Real Life in the Bible. I'm Shad, and I am so glad you're watching. I'm going to ask you a question, but let me clarify this. Before I ask you this question, I'm going to let you know I ask myself this very question on a regular basis. What kind of example am I setting to the people that I'm around? And I want to throw that question back at you. What kind of example are you setting to the people that are around you? Now, I'll be the first to admit, I cannot sit here and say that I have always set a great example. Those of you that follow us, you've heard our videos, and I've openly shared my shortcomings, my past. God delivered me alcoholism. A lot of people have seen a lot of things with me, good and bad. And now that I'm walking this walk, this is a question that I ask myself on a regular basis. What kind of example am I setting? The other day I was sitting there thinking, and I don't know, this saying just kind of come through my mind. And it was this: when people see me, what do they see? When people hear me, what do they hear? When I walk away, what will they say about the one they just seen? Man, that's pretty sobering, because regardless of who we are, where we're at, what we're doing, we're constantly setting some sort of an example to others. But as a Christian, I think the Bible's real clear on what kind of example we're to be setting. You don't have to be highly educated to realize, when you look around, we've got a younger generation that are falling into, I call it pits, traps that the enemy has set up. They're getting into things that, man, if you go back to when I was their age, we're not dealing and facing near the things that this younger generation is facing. But here's the thing. I've shared this before in some of the messages that I've preached at church and this and that. It's not the public school's job to teach your kids about Jesus. It's the public school's job is to give them an education. The very fact about teaching your kids about Jesus falls on you, and it falls on me. And I look back when my kids were young, in their childhood, I loved my kids. I was part of their life. But I cannot say I always set a good example. They've seen me at my best. They've seen me at my worst. And that's, I think, with all of us. But here's the thing. Not just our kids, but people that we work with, people we come in contact with, the people we associate with. We're all the time being watched. We're all the time being heard. People hear us. They listen to us. They see us. They see our actions. You've heard on other messages I've done about the fruit that we bear, that you know people by their fruits and all that. But here's the thing, the seriousness about the example that we're setting to others carries a lot of weight for a lot of people. And I don't know about you, I used to think, well, I don't care what nobody thinks about me. I'm going to do me and that's it. If you're doing good things and serving the Lord, then no, I wouldn't worry about what people think. As long as you are walking that walk with God and setting a good example. Not everybody's going to like and appreciate what you do. But here's the thing. If we're not walking with God and we're not setting an example, and we're going to get to that in just a second, then we might be concerned. But Jesus himself, you can go back in your Bible in John chapter 13, verse 15. Jesus makes a pretty awesome statement. He had just washed his disciples' feet. Many of you know the story. They felt unworthy for the master, the king, to humble himself and to wash their feet. But he was doing this to give them a visual message of how we are to treat other people and what kind of example to set with others. Now, that doesn't mean we go around washing everybody's feet. It was the message in it. But in John chapter 13, verse 15, just as Jesus has got done washing the feet of his disciples, he made this one bold statement. He said, I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. This was Jesus himself saying, I have given you an example. Do as I have done. That's what he's saying. What you just seen me do, I want you to do it. I set you an example how we are to love and humble ourselves and treat other people and show the love and grace and mercy of God to others. You know, we live in a world that's full of hate, bitterness, unforgiveness. But you know, I've noticed, I've got a buddy, and if he watches this, he knows who I'm talking about, is going through a pretty tough time right now. But people have reached out by the thousands, supporting him in prayer and in thoughts. And I was going through looking at some of the comments people had made, and it blew my mind. There are still good people in this world, a lot of good people. I know the news medias and the news outlets, they seem like they blow up and magnify all the bad, but yes, they are still good people in this world. And that tells me that there are still good people setting good examples. But it's important. In 1 Timothy 4:12, Paul wrote Timothy, because Timothy was a young guy at the time. He had just got involved in the ministry. You're going to have haters. You're going to have people talking about you regardless of how good you're doing or whatever. You know, let them hate, let them talk. It is what it is. But Paul wrote Timothy, and Timothy being a young man, he said, let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. Here was an older guy telling a younger guy, encouraging him, hey, don't let nobody look down on you because you're young, but set an example to everyone that's around you, the believers. We should even be setting an example to the non-believers. To be a Christian means to be Christ-like. So what did I mean earlier? When people see me, what do they see? They should see Christ in me. When they hear, what do they hear? They should hear God's love coming from my mouth. They should hear encouraging words. Everybody's so into putting other people down and criticizing. We attack people with our mouths. We attack people with our words and all this. And, you know, it shouldn't be like that. But I love it that Paul encouraged Timothy, being a young guy, to be an example in speech, in what you say, in conduct, in how you act, in love. That's what you show other people. In faith, that's your service to God. In purity, that's what kind of pure life you live. He said, be that kind of example. And then in Titus 2:7, it says, and you yourselves must be an example to them by doing good works of every kind. Let everything you do reflect the integrity and seriousness of your teaching. Man, did you hear that? And you yourselves must be an example to them by doing good works of every kind. Let everything you do reflect the integrity and seriousness of your teaching. You got to back up what you talk about. But we're all setting examples whether we realize it or not. And then 1 Corinthians, this is the one that got me. This is Paul, the Apostle Paul. If you don't know his story, look it up. A big transformation from one old man to a new man, and how he become such a godly disciple. I mean, he wrote 2/3 in the New Testament, but you need to look up his story. But when God become real to him and he come to know Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, his ministry began. And he took his walk with God so serious that he could boldly make this statement. And when I first read it, I thought, wow, I don't know if I could tell somebody else this. But I want you to listen to what Paul said. He said, I too try to please everyone in everything I do. I don't just do what's best for me. I do what's best for others, so that many may be saved. And in which that's in chapter 10, but the first verse of chapter 11, he finishes up and says this. Back in the Bible, when the Bible was wrote, there was not chapters and verses. It was a letter. It says, and you should imitate me just as I imitate Christ. He said, I too try to please everyone in everything I do. I don't just do what's best for me. Did you hear that? I don't do what's just best for me. I do what is best for others so that many may be saved. Many may be saved. And you should imitate me just as I imitate Christ. In the King James Version it says, follow me as I follow Christ. And I got thinking about that. Could I honestly look somebody in the eye and say, hey, follow me as I follow Christ? If I would not be willing to tell somebody that, then I need to look at my walk. And it makes me ask myself this question, what kind of example I'm setting? So I want to talk to you parents that still have kids at home. You're setting an example, good or bad. They see what you're doing. They hear what you're saying. They see what you're watching. And those kids are watching you on a daily basis. And I can remember, as a father myself, I didn't always set the good example. And when I seen one of my kids do what I was doing that wasn't good, it was kind of hard to get on to them for making that very same mistake or bad choice. We're to be setting examples to our children, to our grandchildren. They're watching, they're listening, they're learning. And studies have shown that a child, from the day they're born to the time they're 5 years old, learn more in that time frame than they do the whole rest of their life. But these young children in the home that are hearing their parents cuss and drink and get drunk and attack one another, they're watching, they're listening, they're seeing what you do, and you're setting a precedent, you're setting an example to them, and basically whether you realize it or not, you're telling them, hey, it's okay to do what I do. You know, how contradicting is it when we tell our kids, don't do as I do as I say do. You know, that's a bad message. That's a bad message that we give a lot of our kids. But see, it's not just our kids that we're setting an example to. When you go to your workplace, God has given you a workplace to go in and shine as a light to those that are struggling, those that are hurting, those that are not believers. You're setting an example of who Jesus Christ is. So when we go to work, what we say, what we do, how we act, plays a big part on how not only do other people perceive us, but if we're claiming with our mouth to be a Christian, that we're proclaiming that we're a follower of Jesus Christ, but yet we're living a double standard, that's giving mixed messages to people, because the example that we are setting is not matching the words that we're speaking. So I want to leave you with this. What kind of example are you setting? Hey, I ask myself this every day. What kind of example am I setting? People are watching, people are listening. And do you know that you may be the only Bible anybody ever reads? Think about that. We as Christians are shining the light of Jesus Christ into a dark world. You may be the only Bible somebody ever reads. Hey, I love you. God bless you. Share this, and let's all try to set better examples. See you here next time.